Holden Advisors is excited to share this new interview series featuring revenue enablement leaders. The series is by enablement for enablement. Highly skilled enablement leaders from around the world will share best practices, lessons learned, and tips that will be helpful not only for enablement, but also for sales leaders who want a second voice. To participate in the series, you can reach out to Erica Summers through LinkedIn or through the Sales Enablement Society. Good morning. I am here with Amit Ghosal from Virtusa. He is a Senior Director of Sales Enablement. Welcome.
Thank you, Erica, for having me.
So we're really excited to talk to you today about your experience and your best practices. This series, as you know, is meant for enablement people, by enablement people, just to help us all get better and take some of the lessons learned. So really appreciate you joining this morning. Tell me a little bit about your role at Virtusa.
Absolutely. My name is Amit Ghosal, and I'm a Senior Director of Sales Enablement at Virtusa. Virtusa, Erica, is a digital engineering and technology company that provides services to Forbes 2000 global companies globally. And we have over 36,000 employees worldwide, with offices spanned across over 50 locations in 25 plus countries. Over 250 clients rely on us to manage and excel in their day-to-day activities. I think the unique thing about Virtusa is that we embrace an engineering first mindset. And what that means is really we try and combine logic, creativity, and curiosity to solve a business problem from inside out. Here at Virtusa, I partner with key stakeholders and cross-functional teams globally to deliver sales enablement and go-to-market operations programs that streamline, that simplify and improve sales productivity and effectiveness. In terms of your question around reporting structure and the function, the reporting structure here is pretty simple. I'm part of the Chief Sales Officers organization. Sales enablement here is pretty much a centralized structure, which means the key decisions like strategic planning, goal setting, budgeting, and talent deployment are typically made by the sales office.
Great, that's helpful. And so tell us a little bit about your team.
My team comprises of talented sales enablement professionals that are actually spanned globally. We work in a lot of activities, like I mentioned, go-to-market enablement, streamlining, assessing the level of effectiveness of our sales programs, more importantly, building a culture around sales enablement at Virtusa. But there is a lot to talk about in terms of what we do. But yeah, that's in short what we do.
Okay, that's great. So when I was checking out your background, I saw that you've got a history in product marketing as well as some other functions. Mm-hmm. How do you think that has prepared you for the role and gives you a special blend to lead this function with?
I think that's a great question. I think when you look at sales enablement, Erica, there is a connectivity that it has with associated departments. You know, marketing. Especially when it comes to product marketing plays a very pivotal role in what sales enablement does or delivers to organizations. There is a lot of correlations or dependencies that actually come into effect when people are programming sales enablement efforts. So I think a background from product marketing or revenue enablement, or from that matter, sales operations, really help in augmenting and taking sales enablement into the next level as you speak.
I couldn't agree more. You know, if for so many companies, product marketing is an essential function and really drives a lot of the direction of a company. And so you having that background and then being able to partner very closely with them, I think is so important in creating great content for sellers, messaging, really all the things that they need to be successful. Mm-hmm. So let's get to some of the good stuff here. So tell me about one of your biggest lessons learned in sales enablement.
Oh, I love that question. I think, Erica, there is a fundamental mindset issue. Sales enablement, when we distill that word, that term, as the name suggests, people think of that this department is established only to enable sales. And it is just so very obvious. You see, the function itself is called sales enablement and not revenue enablement or not pre-sales enablement. I've been into this field since the time that the definition of sales enablement was sort of ambiguous. And if you look at the current market, Erica, sales enablement has become a nearly $70 billion discipline today. But is it still effective is the key question. You'll hear mixed reactions to that question. Nearly 70% of sales reps say that they don't have enough knowledge, adequate knowledge to move the deals forward. And sales enablement doesn't do enough to equip them with the information that they need to close the deals faster. Traditional sales enablement programs focus too much on marketing assets. And I can say this because I come from that background, and very little on the product and sales knowledge, and more importantly, the value selling aspect. Sales enablement sort of operates on the assumption that sales is the only team that needs to be empowered with resources to drive revenue, when the reality is, Erica, that all customer-facing teams have the ability to impact revenue, isn't it? I mean, and the moment we make that assumption, we have unknowingly pressed the wrong button. And from there on, things just start to flow in the incorrect direction. And it's only a matter of time. You'll start to realize that the function is not adequately delivering the right outcomes for which it was set up. I think it's critical that teams like customer success, pre-sales, even support are made a mandatory part of any enablement process, because ultimately they are all combined with the sales teams and collectively form that revenue engine for your company. I'll say that the key to the success is when you start to see the sales teams winning is when they're aligned with customer success and support. They all have the access to vital information that's often concealed by other departments like marketing and product organizations. So how can you have organizations start to rethink about the structure and build a world-class empowered revenue team? Here's my view, and I'll quickly summarize. Align your sales development with customer success and support. Invest in products or processes that work not just for the sellers, but also for the subject matter experts. And finally, keep pace with your market and product. So I'd summarize by saying that if you focus on revenue empowerment rather than just sales enablement, you're bound to provide ongoing contextual learning for all customer-facing teams.
I love that. And you can really hear your experience coming through there with why this needs to be. Sales enablement, when it's successful, to your point, is an integrated function.
Correct.
And really spans across departments and stakeholders. And I think when we see people get this right, the leadership really embraces that, and you've got great partnerships within the team across all those areas. So I love that you called that out. What do you wish, Amit, that someone would have told you when you got into sales enablement?
Oh, a lot of things, to be honest, Erica. But really, if there is one thing that I think if I've known that earlier, I'd say it is the significance of data in sales enablement platforms. You see, and I'll sort of explain that a little bit. When I came into this space 20 years ago, the focus was very much towards running sales programs and training sessions. Once a program was delivered, people didn't have the time and resources to go back and investigate the effectiveness of those programs. I mean, the management did demand basic data, like how many folks attended, how many took the assessments, how many passed, their scores and stuff like that. But in no situation, Erica, I've seen questions related to data points from a strategic view, like out of the content that you've used to enable sales, what content is viewed by the sellers? What out of that content are your sellers sharing with the buyers? And then what out of that content are the buyers viewing? What contents are the buyers sharing with other people? What are the most used tags? What are the least used tags? You get the idea, right? So to put this into perspective, I mean, the closest thing that I can relate this to is with Netflix. You see, Netflix is driven by data. They know what you watch and when you watch it. They know the shows you like, that you love, and they know the devices you prefer to stream them on and how you search content on their platform. Why is this important? And why did I take that analogy? Netflix uses this data to improve their user experience on their platform. but they also use it for strategic purposes, such as deciding and decoding which existing movies or TV shows Netflix should promote and which ones they should create to meet the demand. Today, any good sales enablement platform that you take offers this same level of strategic insight into user behavior. When you invest your time to gather data and analyze that data like this around your sales enablement initiatives, your marketing team can gain valuable insight into which content is effective or where there are gaps. Your operations team can then see who is using the platform and who might need additional training. In the end, you'll be able to segment and prioritize your sales enablement audience based on their needs and preferences.
I love that, Amit, because you're talking about a mature sales enablement function. We see sales enablement functions still at that basic level of we're doing a training, feels good, we can tell you how many people went, but we really can't see the ROI. We really don't have insights, and maybe we don't make strategic decisions using data. And the other end of it, and where I love that this space has gone for mature enablement organizations, is really taking that data-driven approach. And to your point, those partnerships, even with sales operations, to say, let's look at our pipeline. Let's look at opportunity progression, all of the data that you can use to make those decisions, measure effectiveness, and be strategic. And I just love that you called that out. So a fun question that I wanted to throw in about sales kickoffs. Many organizations are planning for their sales kickoffs right now, or even started months ago. Tell me about the best sales kickoff experience that you've seen.
Oh, when we think about sales kickoffs, SKOs, what flows in front of our eyes are beautifully crafted presentations. You think of hour-long team building exercises, networking events, robust, comprehensive training sessions, and not to mention the lavish dinner and drinks, all sponsored and paid through the company, right? And we are no different in that sense, Erica. But when I think of a memorable SKO experience, I recall the year when we wanted to plan it using a reverse psychology effect. So we considered it with a bottoms-up approach. And what that means is, instead of first planning things around agenda, content, tracks, logistics, speakers, delivery modes, and all of that good stuff, we instead asked ourselves two key questions that we wanted to answer first. Number one, how do we want the team to feel when the SKO is over? And number two, what do we want the team to do when it's over? And I can tell you how helpful this could get when you reverse the line of attack. Our team was able to schedule sessions in a way tailored, bespoke, that they were focused on team excitement and momentum. For example, we started off with a high-level keynote from an executive. Immediately following that was a highlight on employee success stories to set a positive tone throughout the day, and then close out the night with employee awards and recognition. Really kept it simple, yet informative and entertaining. My advice, Erica, having seen this firsthand, would be to make sure your information is crisp and digestible. You got to split your content into different sessions or tracks, depending on the topic, like what's working, what's not yet working, customer communications, and productivity strategies. Combine that with role-playing, group exercises, and a few guest speakers to build engaging conversations. And what you get as an output is a Moments of Wow SKO experience.
I love that. Thinking about the seller experience, how you want them to feel when it's over and what you want them to do when it's over.
Correct.
You're leading with outcomes, right? It's the same way we think about building learning or selling. You're leading with the end in mind. And so I really love that approach and description. Thank you for that.
Sure.
So tell me about an accomplishment that you are proud of in sales enablement.
To a great extent, Erica, this relates to one of the skills that I'm passionate about. When it comes to enablement methods, webinars play a vital role. I don't think there is a single company that don't use this medium to distribute knowledge. I will tell you, I'll share my experience with you when I first attended a webinar. It was sort of an eye-opener for me, and that's the reason I'm taking this time to share that experience with the community. Within the first 10 minutes, I realized that all I'm looking at is a 42-slide PowerPoint deck being presented on the screen and one person talking throughout. Here is the agenda, point 1, point 2, point 8, point 9, and point 10. Now I'm moving to the next slide, market trends, point 1, point 2, point 10. You get the idea. Even worse, the speaker was reading the slides word by word, verbatim. There were slides around marketing, there were slides around technology, product offerings, architecture, delivery model, client success stories, and almost all possible areas under the sun, which I may have forgotten and unable to recall at this moment. Some slides were so incredibly busy that there were hardly enough space left to even write my name on it in 10-point font. As a curious attendee, I asked myself a question. What if somebody sent me this PowerPoint ahead of the webinar? Would I still have attended this hour-long webinar? Fast forward many years today, I take the honor and the privilege to host and run the most successful and loved webinar series in the company, taking those monotonous, dull, non-engaging webinars to what we call the modern interview-style engaging conversations that keeps the audience glued to the system, I think has been a truly amazing achievement. And I'll tell you, this requires some serious efforts. When I get a topic, I spend considerable time to read and understand the objectives until I'm able to distill it down to small, bite-sized snippets. Then I start stitching those snippets into a connected story that has the core message as well as the engaging attributes blended into it. I then use that story to do multiple dry runs with my guests and speakers. In 9 out of 10 times, Erica, there are multiple subject matter experts that I involve to get different perspectives, different angles, and also different voices in the webinars. And what you eventually get is a transformed output that makes the show buzz. You see, there is no question about the fact that holding the attention span, and I don't want to go to the goldfish analogy here again, but really, in today's virtual setup, how do you ensure your audience is listening to you and not drafting an email, not scrolling through their Facebook post or LinkedIn feeds? We all like multitasking. There is no harm in that. But the art of running a successful webinar is somehow to prevent that attendee from multitasking and make him focus on what is being presented. And unless you invest the time in carefully programming that story, bringing in that element of excitement and engagement, prepping the presenters, you'll most likely have people dropping off pretty early. For me personally, it has been more than an achievement, but somewhat of a passion. So when you interview hundreds of people, as I have over the last decade, you get to experience a lot of knowledge. You get to interact with a lot of different perspectives. And that's sort of what I bring. And then you begin to develop patterns, right? So what my biggest ability is to catalyze the conversation and share the knowledge with the community. So that is what I'd say is the biggest accomplishment / learning.
That's fantastic. And as you were talking through that, I thought we could probably have an entire series just on excellence in virtual training. I recently was asked by someone that's fairly new to the space, why don't we use a lot of PowerPoint anymore? That was my response. But you know, it's a good question. There are so many other things that we can do to be engaging. And in this virtual world, you just have to try harder. So I appreciate you calling that out. You've got such great experience in sales enablement. I know people are going to take a lot from your wisdom. Let's wrap with where you're focused for personal growth in 2023.
You know, I'm a huge believer of continuous learning, Erica. I think the way technology is evolving, old skills become obsolete in a blink of an eye. I mean, the need for cutting edge skills is no longer a choice. It's a necessity, right? And like any other field, this is also true for sales enablement practitioners. I'm an active member of the Sales Enablement Society. which is an excellent community of over 10,000 enablement practitioners around the world. I constantly learn, interact, and keep myself up to date with what's happening in that space. I'm always on the lookout for upskilling my certifications. Earlier this year, I completed my sales enablement expert certification. Following that, I underwent the live in-person training from Corporate Visions around their value selling framework. And one of the things, Erica, I also keep an eye on is how the sales enablement platforms are evolving. I research their capabilities, try and compare the common features in the quest for knowing if there is any groundbreaking features that are being introduced that can make our life as enablement practitioners more easy. One other thing is networking. Networking with other enablement leaders is an absolute necessity. Over these years, I've built a community of hundreds of like-minded people in my professional network. I will say that with any networking relationship, it's important to dedicate time to build mutually beneficial relationships. And finally, you might find this interesting, but with all the buzz around AI nowadays, I continue to learn and research, and I'm curious, right, how AI companions like ChatGPT, Google Bard can have a game-changing effect on enablement. How can we use the power of generative AI to transform the way people look at enablement programs? So you see, the possibilities are limitless. The resources are at your fingertips. All you need to have is curiosity.
Excellent. Very well said. And more ideas for future podcasts, definitely. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really a pleasure, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you for having me on the show, Erica. It was indeed fun sharing some of my perspectives, and I hope this was useful for our community.